Welcome to episode 14. They say March is the month of miracles, but sometimes those miracles happen to the wrong team. Last week, the 919 was the center of the basketball universe. Today, it's quiet. We watched the Tar Heels get bounced in the opening round, leaving a program in transition and searching for a coach and searching for answers. And then that moment that will be played in Durham for a generation. It's the Elite Eight, seconds on the clock. Duke is a breath away from the Final Four. And then UConn launches a prayer from 50 feet out, a half court heave that defied physics and shattered everyone's bracket. It wasn't just a buzzer beater, it was a heartbreaker. Today, Darryl and Will are picking up all the pieces. We're talking about what ifs, what now, how the season of so much promise for both teams was just shot down at midcourt. This is the Blue Blood Rivalry podcast. Grab your seat. We have a lot to process today. The Blue Blood TV podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast. Darryl, Will, what's going on?
Daryl, you all right, man?
Uh,
You
good
there,
afternoon.
Darryl?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, fellas. Good afternoon.
Darryl, are you there?
Uh,
No,
Are you
I,
mentally there?
yeah, how you
you
feeling
know,
today?
Hassan, you mentioned that the shot was breathtaking, and I think at this point I'm still feel like I'm suffocating. Still feel like I'm trying to catch my breath at this point, to be honest.
So let me ask you a question, Darryl. Duke inbounds the ball. They actually got it inbounded. They get the ball to their point guard. UConn plays incredible defense and they pick off the play. What are you thinking right there, Darryl? 7 seconds left.
Oh no, not again, not again.
Did you
Um,
think not again, or did you think like there's not enough time?
no, I honestly, coming down the stretch, I started to get that little bit of anxiety because it's PTSD, right? We couldn't get the ball in bounds last year. We found ourselves in a similar situation last year, and when we got the ball in bounds, I started to pour up a shot. I was ready to celebrate. And Caden Boozer gets the ball at half. I think they're about to foul him. He's 6 or 6 from the line for the day, having one of the biggest games of his life. And when he passes that ball and it's tipped and it starts rolling around half court, I started to think, oh no, not again.
Okay, let me get the rivals' perspective. Will, we all saw it 50 feet, 2.8 seconds left.
Yeah, it
And
was
as
wild.
a Tar Heel, and be honest, when the ball left the UConn player's hand, were you thinking about Duke in the Final Four, or did you have that gut feeling the 919 was about to have its heart broken at midcourt? Did you think that ball was going in? Well,
I didn't know. I didn't know what to think, man. So full transparency, my girlfriend and I were at a birthday party yesterday, and there were no TVs, so we were watching the first half on the phone and everything. And when Duke was up 19 and a half, I figured it wasn't even worth turning it on. And then during dinner, I checked the score of the game and immediately ran to the TV with about 6.5 to go. And I mean, she and I sat there, and she was in just as much disbelief as I was. Man, that was just a hell of an ending to a basketball game, and it looked like Duke was just kind of scrambling there at the end of the game, and they just looked out of sorts, man. I mean, if you're Caden Boozer and you hold on to that ball, we're having an entirely different conversation.
okay. So, Darryl, I noticed two things on the shot. Did you see where Slim's hands were?
Yeah, at his
Down by
hips. at his
Side. What are
waist,
you doing?
Do
at his
you
waist.
okay? So he's doing that because he doesn't want to foul. Was
You
that
know,
the
Hassan,
right? Was that the
I
right
don't,
call?
I don't know, and I haven't seen a post game interview where maybe he said that. What I got from it was that I think that he froze. I think he looked like he was in shock.
It
Like
looked
like
like he did. Daryl, you're spot on with that one, man.
yeah, I mean his the look on his face, and I love the side by side shot where they're showing John Shire as he's encouraging him to put his hands up, and all I can think of is Mark Jackson, hands down, man down, right? And Isaiah Evans just looked like he was in disbelief that this shot even went up. I think he thought that the shooter Mullins would have taken a dribble or a couple dribbles. I think he thought that he had, I think when as he saw him raise up to shoot, he couldn't even believe he was going up with a shot. But I tell you this, when he shot it, Hassan, I called cash because it looked so good. It looked like
It
he was
looked
shooting it from
clean.
15 feet away.
I
It
mean,
looked clean,
it
man.
was
That was wild.
it was a great shot. It looked like it defied physics. So, Darryl, let me ask you a question. In the huddle, John Shire has got the ghost of yesteryear on his shoulder. What do you think he tells his boys in that huddle? What was the coaching directive, Darryl?
Listen, we beat John Shire up all year about inbounds plays from last season. I think that he was so concerned. Again, PTSD, right? As a coach, it's trial and error. You live and you learn. And last year they couldn't get the ball in bounds. I think he ran plays. He figured that part out, and that was his biggest concern. Was, hey fellas, let's get it in bounds. Let's get it in bounds. I don't know if it was let's get it in bounds and let's get to the line. I really think it was let's get it in bounds, and he assumed from that point he sends his best free throw shooters to the line. He's got his best free throw shooters in the game, and he feels as if the inbounds is the biggest obstacle. But what he didn't know was that he had what I mean, he had a freshman on the court, but what he didn't know was the freshman was going to throw the ball to his teammates down the court, trying to just get rid of it as opposed to holding it and taking that shot. I think Caden Boozer was really looking for that victory lap. He was looking to get it out of his hands as quickly as possible, especially knowing what happened last season, to finish it off, to seal the deal. This game was so grit and grind down the stretch that I think he was trying to get it off just to get that sense of relief that, oh my God, we finally accomplished it. We made it through this battle, and it got tipped, man. He didn't throw it high enough. I would encourage him. I would have encouraged him to hold the ball. Like I said, 6 for 6 from the line for the day, a 70 some odd percent free throw shooter. I would have encouraged him to hold that ball, but I think the moment might have been too big for Caden Boozer because he did not want to see that free throw line 1-and-1 after seeing Tyrese Proctor go to that line a year before and miss a 1-and-1 in a similar situation.
So, did you see where he was trying to throw the ball?
He was actually surprisingly he was going to Gongba. He wasn't
Where,
even
where was
going to
Gang, where
Isaiah
was
Evans
Gangba?
on the right side of
Off
the
the
court.
court. Yep.
On the right
Yep.
side of the court. I think it was a design play. I think
Yeah.
they were breaking pressure. They're going to take their big man, play him long, and you get it to the big man at long, and he was like an inch or two away from being in the Final Four. I think that
I
was the
don't
play. I
I
think
don't
that was
disagree
the
with that.
play.
I don't disagree with that because if you look at the shot again side by side as the play is happening and they're showing John Shire and what he's doing, he's pointing as if he wants him to pass the ball up and the guys are open. So I really could see that being a thing. He just didn't throw the ball high enough. But
Okay,
again, I'm taking
I
holding the ball and I want you to shoot those free throws.
okay, but I think it was a play. I think they like last year we were talking about they didn't have a play,
Yeah.
right? This year they had a play. They spread the court. They knew whose hands they wanted to get into. And I think they executed the play. But for this circumstance, up to, all you needed was to inbound the ball and take the foul. But I think they ran the play. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a design play just based off of Shire and the kind of the sideline, the hand gestures, the mouthing. You could see the lip reading. It was definitely a design play. It was just a really poorly designed play. Like did you hear
It
Grant
was a
Hill on
poor
the sideline?
pass, Will. It was a poor
No,
pass.
but did you see Grant Hill on the sideline? Did you guys see that clip of his reaction?
No, I
No,
missed that one.
tell
No,
us about it.
so I forget who he was calling the game with, but the other guy looked like he had a stroke, and Grant Hill's like, why in the fuck do you not just go down and let them foul you?
Because it
And
was a play.
everybody's sitting there saying it. So that's poor coaching. Like we're going back to, yeah, last year he didn't have an inbounds play, and this year he had a piss poor inbounds play, and they ended up turning the ball over and losing the game. Like I played basketball in church ball and YMCA, and I know that you've got a guy who's 6 of 6 on the for the game, right? And even if the UConn didn't have any more timeouts, like even if you go down and you miss the front end of the 1-and-1, they've still got to go the length of the court with no timeouts. Like it seemed like simple basketball 101. I just think it was a piss poor play.
No, no, no. I think it was a good play. I thought it was poor execution, but it wasn't the play they needed. So I think John
Yeah,
Shire,
it was a bad time. It was bad. It was poor timing. Great inbound, great play, poor execution, poor timing.
poor timing, and John Shire was coaching against the ghost of last year. And what he did not do is look at the situation and say, we're up to, if we get the ball in, just take the fucking foul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and to add insult to injury, while I understand that Caden Boozer's 6 for 6 from the line, if you actually do draw up that kind of a play, I think that you substitute Caden Boozer for Caleb Foster. You
yeah.
put your senior
Why
leadership,
was he not on the floor?
your junior guard should be on the court. The experience, you trust him, you rely on him. He fought through injury to be out here. You trust the ball in his hands. And while he is a 59% free throw shooter on the year, you trust the experience. He experienced what he experienced last year, learned and grew. And you have to go with the guy who you trust the most. And I think it should have been Caleb Foster, at the very least, if it was a design play for them to get the ball up the court and seal it with a dunk.
No,
Well,
no,
and
I think
so
they were just trying to
even
break the pressure.
well,
They
so
practiced breaking the pressure. And I disagree with you, Darryl. I don't think that you put the worst the three the free throw shooter. I think they had the right guy there. But I think in the huddle, you say, if we get the inbound and we get it to Caden Boozer, take the foul and let's go home.
Yeah, I agree. If that's what we're doing is taking fouls.
Because
But
so that was
if we're
the,
running,
but they ran the play. That's what
well,
I'm
that's the
trying to
thing.
get at.
If we're running the play, Hassan, all I'm saying is I think we agree in a way. If you're taking foul, if you're telling them, encouraging them, hey, take the foul if you get the ball, Caden, cool. But it sounds as if we have encouraged them to run this play that we've been practicing because I couldn't get the ball in bounds last year, and I drew up this incredible play to finally overcome this ghost that you referring to of yesteryear, right? Then at that point, maybe I put a little bit more leadership. Maybe I put a little bit more experience on the court because I trust the guys with the ball in their hands who have the most experience, who have been in college for a few years. And I'm not saying that you can anticipate Caden Boozer throwing that ball away, but I'm putting the guys I trust the most out there. If my intention is to run that play and break that press. If I need a free throw shooter, Caden Boozer. If I need a press breaker, a reliable source, a reliable resource, then I'm going with Caleb Foster. But we'll be debating that for the next 10 years.
well, I think the biggest thing that we're overlooking here is Bob Hurley's coaching job down the stretch in that game. Like, or I mean, Duke was expecting to be fouled, right? I mean, you for all intents and purposes, you get the ball, you're expecting to be fouled, and to have the cojones to send two guys up at full speed, not foul, and let Duke start scrambling, and then because once they weren't fouled, it looked like that play, like it almost looked. You could almost call that they were going to turn the ball over once, like right after that initial getting the ball in. Like that was, I thought Shire just got out coached in that last minute or two. Also,
I'm sure Dan celebrated with Bob with
oh
Bobby,
sorry,
man. But
wrong
yeah,
Hurley, my bad, wrong
yeah,
Hurley,
yeah,
wrong
yeah, yeah.
Hurley.
But yeah, Dan Hurley, man, what an incredible coach, what a passionate coach. And way to coach up guys when you're down 19 in a game against this Duke team, the number one overall seed in the tournament. I just think it definitely goes. Dan Hurley definitely deserves some credit for how he kept his guys in the game, kept his guys motivated, and they fought to the end.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Darryl, 2 years in a row, inbounding the ball, seconds away from the Final Four, may have had the team to win this whole thing. Is this on the coach?
Yeah, I think considering how everything went last year, Hassan, you know how I've been super critical of John Shire. I think that it was a poor play by Caden Boozer, but a 19-point lead, very similar to how Hubert Davis blew his lead. I can't do anything but place blame on Shire. He has a history of blowing leads, right? 14-point lead last season against Houston. They had, I believe, like a 9-point lead in the Elite Eight 2 seasons ago against NC State. At this point, John Shire is known more for blowing leads than he is for winning games. And the question at this moment is, can he win the big game? I was ready with 10 seconds left on that clock and they got that ball in bounds. I was ready to come on this show and say Shire has proven me wrong. Shire has overcome his deficits. He's finally figured it out. I would have given him that after winning this game against a tough UConn team, a well-coached UConn team. John Shire would have had the green check from me. And just that quickly turn around and I'm thinking something totally different. I think he's on the hot seat, Hassan. He's on a hot seat going into the next season, the same way I said Hubert Davis was on the hot seat coming into this year.
Okay,
I
what
don't
about you,
understand.
Will?
I don't understand how he's not on the hot seat. I mean, if you look at the last 4 years that he's been a coach in the tournament, they've had the top two recruiting class. They were either one or two in recruiting class. I guess the last 5 years they've had the top two recruiting class. 5 years ago, we all know what happened with Coach K's send off. And then in the last 4 years, they've blown a 19-point lead, a 14-point lead, a 13-point lead, and a 9-point lead in the tournament to all go out early. You have no national championships in the past 11 years. You've got 36 5 stars. Like the amount of talent that you could essentially roll three 12-man NBA rosters out with the level of talent that Duke's had in the last 11 years. And the teams, I'm not saying they'd make deep playoff runs, but they'd be competitive. And any other coach would have been fired in an instant. But why do we keep making excuses for this guy?
To be fair, in 11 of those seasons, John Shire was the head coach for 4 of them, right? And Coach K couldn't get it done either. So I think that Shire probably benefits from the fact that Coach K did lack that national championship the last 7, 8 years of his career. Um, whatever the math is, I'll let you do the math. But the last several years of Coach K's career, that championship eluded him despite the talent, and I think that might be buying John Shire some time, right? The ACC tournament titles, the regular season titles, but that leash only goes so long. And I think right now he's getting near the end of it for somebody who's never appeared in a national title game with the amount of talent that he's had.
Yeah, I just think that with if you're rolling that much talent out, like how long of a leash do you want to give the guy? I mean, it's
One more year. I mean, I don't
enough
think it
rope to
goes
hang
beyond this
himself
year.
with.
If it's the same result, I think at that point Duke's going to start preaching insanity next year.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's talk about how that 19-point lead was cut, right? Do you guys know that UConn missed 18 of their first 19 attempts from 3 points?
yeah.
Yes.
They only made what, five all game, six all game?
Yeah, they made
Yes,
5.
they made five, and they got those four going down the stretch with like 7 minutes left, right? They
Yeah.
hit back-to-back triples to gain momentum, right? So UConn was having like a shooting deficit. I mean, if they hit half of those or 30% of those first 19 shots, that's a totally different game, right? And so my question to you is what was going on with Duke? Why did the offense sputter in that second half?
I think personally, we've been talking about this for a while now, and we talked about Cooper Flagg last year, and you guys have talked about Cameron Boozer this year, and I've mentioned how consistent he's been. And this is not. Let me be very clear. This is not on Cameron Boozer, but I think it's 100% on coaching. Cameron Boozer, in my opinion, had a good game. He is not the reason they lost. 27, 8, 4. That is respectable for an Elite Eight appearance. And down the stretch, he had some clutch buckets. This is not on Cameron Boozer, it's on the coaching. Isaiah Evans, there's no way you can go 10 for 15 in the Sweet 16 against St. John's, as hot as can be in the same gym, and scoring 25 points and follow that by putting up 6 shots. I mean, 2 for 6, 1 for 4 from the three. There's no excuse for Isaiah Evans only shooting the ball 6 times following that performance. There's no excuse for Cameron Boozer having 21 field goal attempts and the rest of your team having 27. I think that they started to they got up, Cameron Boozer even said it, they came out flat in the second half. I think that we talk about experience. I think a young team got a little overly excited. I think they thought that they had UConn dead in the water, and they came out flat, and UConn did nothing but continue to chug, and to keep cutting the lead, keep fighting again, continue to battle through adversity. And down the stretch, while Duke may have still made some good plays, they got some critical buckets. I think they got tight, and I think that they started as the clock started winding down and the score got closer. Those players were reminded of what happened last year because we all saw it. And they were the team that was supposed to overcome the ghost of the past, and that ghost crept up on them as quickly as possible. And it wasn't Casper the friendly one,
And
I'll tell
you
you
know
that
what they
much.
did? You know what they did, Darryl?
What's that, Hassan?
They ran the play from practice.
Yeah, they did. They ran the play
They
from
ran the
they ran
play.
the play from practice.
They
And
ran the
I have to
play.
give John Shire, credit while I also tear him down. Man, what a way to inbound the freaking ball. But the damn next couple passes should have never happened. Take the foul. It's 10 seconds left. You can keep the ball 10 seconds in the back court if you have to, right? Throw it. At the 9th second, just throw it up. The game is over. If they don't want to foul you, then the game is over.
Throw it straight up in the
Did
air
you
as
did
high
you
as you
guys
can.
did y'all see the clip I sent you right before we came on today?
I saw that you sent it, Will, but I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Okay. So essentially, what it is it's a split screen, and it's Shire in practice or in the film room with the guys, and he shows a clip of a God, I can't remember. It's a Suns and somebody else game.
It might
Suns,
have been the Cavs, but yeah,
Suns,
I know
an NBA
Suns.
game. It was a 2-point game. The Suns have free throws. They go down. They miss the free throws, and the ball bounces around a little bit. The other team gets the ball right on the end line, and he pauses it, and he's like, "All right, so what do you do in this situation?" Literally asks. You hear half the guys go, "You throw it down the court." And he goes, okay, and he goes, you throw it as high as you possibly can and the game's over. And he hits play and the dude tosses the ball 30 feet up into the air, time expires, and they win the game. You're sitting here, he coached these guys. They just didn't execute. And I think you can sit here and you can say we should do this, yada, 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 when you're watching film. But if you can't translate the film room to the court, then that's on the coach as well, I think.
Let
Well,
me
I
guess.
think
Was Caden Boozer one of the guys that said you throw it down the court?
I think so.
And he did. He ran the play. So listen, the play should have been if we inbound the ball, first person take the foul.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And then the game is won, right? Because now we have, if we get to two, we get to two. But what I think is like, they didn't want to take the foul because what if they go 1-1, right?
Yeah.
Then UConn gets a chance to come down the court, right? Come down the court and shoot a three, right? Because if they take the foul, they're going to take it early, right? So they
Mhm.
ran the play. That's
Yeah,
what
and
happened.
I think
They
and it
ran the
was
play.
and they were in the 1-1, and I think when Caden Boozer got the ball in his hands, I do believe that crossed his mind that I would have to go to the line. It probably crossed his mind before he got the ball. I have to go to the line, and I would have to hit the front end of this 1-1, because if
Correct.
I don't, if I don't, we could be in the situation. But guess what? He threw the ball away, and they ended up in the exact same situation that he dreaded going to the line to see.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's switch a little bit. Will, is John Shire on the hot seat?
I think he should be. I don't know if he is. I mean, he's not going anywhere, but I think he should be.
Okay. Boozer legacy, Darryl. Karen Boozer had a monster tournament leading up to this. Does an Elite Eight as a freshman feel like success? Is this the standard for Duke, or is it national title or bust? What's the deal, Darryl?
Yeah, we know better, Hassan. It's not the standard for Duke, the same way I said it wasn't the standard for Carolina last episode. And Cameron Boozer had a hell of a season, man. This is one of the best first year freshman season that we've seen in a while, in a long time. Consistency. We've talked about it all year, but that's overshadowed by how the season ended, because at Duke, despite going 27-8-4 in an Elite Eight game where you had critical buckets down the stretch, you lost the game. And guess what? The last name of the person who threw the ball away to lose the game was Boozer. They might not be able to differentiate the two 10 years from now when they're telling the story. It'll end up being Carlos Boozer that threw the ball away.
Okay, if I'm Nike, I go to the Boozer brothers, and I go to Williams, say, here's 20 million, and we're gonna split it between you guys, and we're gonna run this thing back, right? Because I think everybody wants to see the Boozer boys because they were impeccable the entire season. Come back and right what went wrong. What do you think, Will?
I didn't Caleb declare. I
Did
thought
he
he I
did
thought
he
he declared
declare?
already this week. I thought he did it on Instagram. Um,
Let me see.
I think he did. I mean, obviously everybody wants to see, man. That first game was electric. Boozer is electric. I think Wilson's electric. I do think the only one coming back is Caden Boozer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, well, he did declare, but there's a lot of guys that declare, and
Yeah, I
there's a
mean
lot of guys that get drafted and they come back, right? Like you
yeah,
can
he
come,
he hadn't
right?
signed an agent or whatever that rule is, so he's still good for the right price.
Yeah, it's all about money, right?
Yep.
They're here to make money. I would love to see them bring it back. I don't think they will, but I would love to run it back. What do you think, Darryl?
Yeah, I said earlier this year, I think that Duke needs to do what they need to do to bring Cameron Boozer back, offering him, in the range of $7 to $10 million to come back for another year. And I think that it would benefit Cameron Boozer, after watching him in certain matchups, to do that. Man, I think this guy could be a collegiate legend, right? I think he could be an NCAA college basketball legend if he were to come back and spend 3 to 4 years at Duke, while also in this era of the NIL still make good money, still make something that might be worth his time to come back. But I think when he gets to the pros, while I think he might have a couple all-star appearances at best, I don't think he's an all NBA player. I think that his ceiling, the max that we're gonna see, is gonna be Cameron Boozer at the collegiate level. I think in the NBA he's probably an 18-8 guy at best, with a couple all-star appearances. But I think this is going to be where he shines the most. And I think he deserves to come back and have another opportunity now to be able to get that coveted national title. But not just that. I think that his game fits and it's suited for college basketball. So I would love to see him take the non-traditional route in today's era, come back, take the money, and establish himself as a collegiate legend.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Duke starters played heavy minutes. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think fatigue against a really big UConn team played a role in them getting worn down in that second half and an over reliance on Boozer?
I would preach over reliance on Boozer before anything. I think UConn and Duke, their starters both had around the same minutes. I think everybody was fatigued. I do believe that UConn's size impacted them down the stretch as far as the lead is concerned. But I also feel like they're literally one pass away from the Final Four. And I would say that it's more poor decision making, nerves, being a little anxious more than it is fatigue. Fatigue probably cut into that league, but fatigue did not force the turnover at the very end of the game. That's all nerves, Hassan, all nerves.
Okay.
Duke Carolina fans, download Duke Carolina, the Blue Blood Rivalry film on iTunes or Apple TV or wherever you get your VOD downloads.
Hey, Quinn, you know you my guy, right? I'm always putting for you. Tonight, when you step on the court, I step on the court too. And we in it.
So 2 games that night. It's the North Carolina game at Duke and the Duke game that's at North Carolina.
When we wake up on game day, there's a knot in my stomach. We've been up since 6 a.m. this morning watching recorded Duke Carolina games.
I watched the Rivers shot
about 15 times.
Yeah.
Rivers on his own. Yes, at the buzzer.
We're here for the Duke game.
And it is 10 hours and 9 minutes until game time.
The Blue Devils win 85-84.
Nothing better than North Carolina and Duke. It is the best rivalry in all of college basketball. Hall of Fame coaches, great players, and usually so much at stake.
And that's it. Carolina's won it.
The fans have as much to do with the rivalry being great as the players and the coaches.
It's 5 hours before game time.
Well, there's no question that the rivalry is there every day in our community.
Can you imagine what it would be like around here if people didn't have it? It would be terrifying.
We are 30 minutes away from tip-off.
It's one of the most exciting events you can be a part of, and I still say it's not the biggest rivalry in college basketball. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sport, bar none.
It's game time!
Okay, I want to give you guys another note. I'm just going to slide away from Duke and Carolina for just a second. And I want to talk to you about Arizona. Even if Duke got to the Final Four, do you guys think Arizona would have is going to win this thing?
I think Arizona or Michigan's going to win it all. I think that Final Four matchup, you're looking at the national championship.
Okay, what about you, Darryl?
I do think that Arizona, Michigan is probably more of a national championship game than the actual Natty will be. But I also believe that Duke could have beaten Illinois, and if they see Michigan again, they know that they're capable of beating them, right? They've already beaten them this year, and it's one game. Anything can happen. I think they have the talent to beat Arizona, so I would have loved to seen it. I think it would have been a toss-up in my opinion. Both of those teams are very talented, uber talented, but I think this Duke team was talented enough to compete.
Okay, let's talk about the Brand Jordan mandate, okay? But versus the Clutch Sports Rich Paul mandate. Now, I want to tell you that, do you know that LeBron James's son goes to Arizona?
Isn't he sitting out the tournament, though?
He's redshirted.
Yeah. He doesn't play this year. Yeah, he hasn't played.
He's redshirted, right?
Yeah.
But Jason Sanan, you know who he's represented for NIL? Clutch Sports. KJ Lewis, Clutch Sports. I think Rich Paul has about 4 guys on that team. And none of them were declared until LeBron's son went to declared for Arizona. So what I'm saying is we got this Jordan mandate where Jordan is getting behind UNC, but Clutch Sports is also directing players to Arizona, Kentucky, and they're offering these guys NIL deals to go to the places they want them to go. What do you think about
that? Darryl, you want to take this one?
No, Will, I'm actually very interested in what you think.
I don't know. Honestly,
I'm going to tell you, KJ Lewis and Jason Sanan did not commit. Everybody committed after James decided to go.
True. And so I've heard some things in this coaching search. I've been paying a lot more attention. I've probably paid more attention to Arizona sports than I ever have in my entire life, just because of this whole coaching search. And from what I've heard, and I've got some friends who have ties to the Arizona program, and they've said that there's a lot behind the scenes going on with Arizona. So Clutch Sports isn't tied to Arizona necessarily. I think Bronny James went where he could go and kind of he thought he'd get a little bit more playing time than he did. I don't think he necessarily had to redshirt, but they're loaded with freshman talent specifically. And I know that you know more about the Clutch Sports side of it than I do, but I do know that Arizona's athletic department's operating at a huge deficit. So it's interesting. This whole thing is going to be real interesting to see how it shakes out.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what I think.
Yeah.
Bryce James, right?
Yeah.
He serves as a seal of approval for elite prospects, right? So yeah. LeBron James, Clutch Sports, get LeBron James to say, okay, we're going to send Bryce to Arizona. That tells elite prospects that Tommy Lloyd's system is viewed by professional agents as a premier environment for the NBA. What are your thoughts on that, Darryl?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't think that LeBron James sends his son, who we know LeBron James. Listen, we have seen him as a stand-up father, and he's always been one of the top athletes who very rarely, if ever, has been in trouble, and that's very rare. But he's been a great dad from the public eye, and I think that LeBron James sending his kid to Arizona says a lot, because LeBron James knows the business of basketball, and having the LeBron James stamp, LeBron James seal of approval, it means a lot. It means a lot to recruits. We were talking last week about Carolina's coaching saga. We talked about Vince Carter. We talked about Jerry Stackhouse, and we talked about Kenny Smith. We talked about these guys that these kids hardly know, and what that means for the university as far as getting these recruits. Well, what do you think these guys think about LeBron James, a player who they do know, right? A player who many of them know as the greatest of all time because they never saw Michael Jordan play. LeBron James sending his son to Arizona, I think, stamped Arizona as a program to be reckoned with when it comes to pro potential, when it comes to prestige, and when it comes to prominence going forward. And I think that we will see that. We're seeing that this year, and we will see that for years to come.
Okay, so let me talk about the professionalization of the NIL. What I think is Clutch Sports says, we like Arizona, and we're going to move Arizona away from the traditional booster-led NIL models. And we're going to move them towards a pro-style endorsement structure. So now this guy comes out of high school. He says, okay, I'm going to be with Clutch Sports, right? So an athlete like Sanan and James, look at their marketing deals, national level marketing deals. So Clutch Sports is saying, okay, well, we want to get these guys now. We want to put money in their pockets now. And the athletes are saying, well, Clutch Sports has the most influence with the NBA, and we're going to put the right players around LeBron's son, right? But what this model also allows the basketball coaches to focus on basketball, not fundraising, and the agency handles the players and the brands, right? So let's talk about like elite pipeline reputation. Arizona partnered with Clutch Sports to compete with the Blue Bloods because they don't have Brand Jordan. They don't have Nike. They don't have this blue blood history. So they said, okay, let's tap into the agencies that these guys want to get to. And then the agencies have the brands and we give them the brands and everybody's happy. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I do think that Clutch has kind of attached themselves. I mean, Arizona's still a Nike brand. And I do think Clutch is in the market of attaching themselves to a coach, not a program. So like if you look at Caleb Holt coming up next year, he's the number 4 player in the country. He's an elite 5-star, and he verbally committed to Arizona. But when Tommy Lloyd only signed his 1-year contract extension, which was weird in and of itself, he still hasn't signed with Arizona. So there's a strong chance that these guys are just waiting to follow Tommy Lloyd and not necessarily they're not necessarily loyal to the Arizona brand itself.
Yeah, but okay, so Tommy Lloyd has coordinated with Clutch, right?
Yeah.
That's a partnership.
Yeah. So I mean, wouldn't it be huge for a brand like Carolina that has Jordan behind it and has the backing? I mean, we haven't heard anything about the athletic department of Carolina not having any money. We just haven't heard about them. They're not operating at a deficit or anything. Wouldn't it be huge if we could get a guy like Tommy Lloyd to coach us next year?
No, you won't.
Why not?
Because I'm going to tell you why. Because Clutch Sports is in Los Angeles.
Okay.
That's where they are, right? So if I am Clutch Sports and I'm Rich Paul, I'm going to decide on the destination that I want you to go to because I want to go see my new NBA stars, right? So next year, right? You heard of a guy named Caleb Holt?
Yeah.
Choosing Arizona over traditional like Kentucky, like
Carolina. My whole thing though is that he's only a verbal commit. Why hasn't he signed?
Well, I think he's gonna sign, and I think they're going to put the right players around Bryce James because Clutch Sports is influential. Darryl, take it. What do you think?
Let me tell you this, Hassan. It
does
sound
good,
good,
right? You like where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, it sounds good. I think attaching the Clutch Sports attaching itself to a team, to a brand. Again, like you said, West Coast, right? Nike's just right up the road, not too far, almost next door neighbors out in Oregon. And I think having that area, being in the vicinity of all of those things between Los Angeles, as you mentioned, Arizona, Oregon, and having the resources, I think it's a smart move for Clutch Sports to attach themselves to a program like Arizona. What I'll also say is that if they're surrounding Bryce James with players and they're going to be leaning on Bryce James, then they're going to be in trouble. I think that it will benefit Arizona to retain Bryce James for 4 years, considering one, he's really not a pro prospect at this moment, and I don't foresee him being a pro prospect immediately. I think he's a 4-year player, but having him for 4 years and having those ties to LeBron James and ultimately the ties to Clutch Sports only does benefits for Arizona, right? And so I think it's smart on all fronts for Clutch Sports to get a hold of some of those pro prospects through Bryce James in a way, but also for Arizona to get a hold of those pro prospects, similar to how the Brotherhood that Duke has been bringing that talent in for several years now. Clutch Sports now attaching themselves to this program, it affords the same opportunity. And I think this benefits a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations, and ultimately I think it ends up being a positive a positive experience no matter what they decide to do.
Okay, guys, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the 919 perspective. All right, like on the ground, Tobacco Road, the rivalry sting. Okay, let's talk about like the rivalry sting, right? UNC goes out in the first round. Duke has like a week and a half of bragging rights. Does losing a half-court heartbreaker with a team that has NBA guys all over it, what is worse, the first round or the survive and advance that ends in ultimate discomfort and pain for the Duke fans? Will, take it.
Okay, go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Daryl, you got it.
I really think it depends. I think it depends on who we're asking about. What audience are we catering to? Or are we asking who's it worse for? If you're talking about Hubert Davis, it was worse to lose in the first round, right?
For sure.
The 19 to lose a 19-point lead in the first round. If you're talking about fandom, right now in this very moment, we're prisoner of the moments, right? So it's more difficult for Duke fans to stomach a almost half court buzzer beating shot after having a 19-point lead. What I think ultimately is they're both bad in their own way. And while Carolina had to suffer for a week and a half, 2 weeks almost, now they can laugh and rejoice in the fact that Duke found their way out in a similar fashion to the way Carolina did this year, and also maybe in a worse fashion than Duke found itself leaving the tournament last year in the Final Four. And so I think it really just depends on the audience and who we're referring to when we ask who is it worse for. We talking coach, we talking fans, we talking players.
Will, take it.
That's such a political answer, and I respect it. But I think if we're going straight fan opinion, I think Duke's is worse. I think you feel worse if you're Duke. If you look at Carolina's situation, anytime you blow a 19-point lead, you don't get out of the first weekend, past the first round, whatever, it stings. But once Caleb Wilson, our best player, was out, expectations were low at best. And with you guys, you continue. ESPN blows smoke up our behinds about how great Duke is, about John Shire, about the boozers. That's all we got to see and hear about. And for y'all not to even make it to the Final Four and lose on a buzzer beater is, I think that's a worse way of going out from a fan perspective.
Listen, but I do have to say, guys, real quick, Hassan, I do have to say that, Duke gets all the credit. They get all the glory. And I do believe that this was a good Duke team. But this morning I was listening to the radio on the way to work. And it's funny that they said if this Duke team was in any other conference, right, they wouldn't have been a two-loss team going into this tournament. They weren't an invincible squad. This is not last year's team. I've said it all season. I think last year's team was far more talented. I think this Duke team had talent, but I think at best, realistically, they were a Final Four team. I think that they would have been the third best team in the Final Four if you take an objective stance and looking at their roster. I think they had one of the best players in the country, but I think how the roster was constructed, ultimately, they didn't have the depth to really compete on the larger scale with Arizona and Michigan. I think a Final Four appearance would have only been poor because of the expectation and how they've created this narrative. But I don't think this was an elite Duke team.
I think if you take a step back, that's a good point. I think if you take a step back, I think the Duke fatigue comes from ESPN, from the national media, talking about the boozers every game. Every game there's Grant Hill, Jay Billis, Jay Will, whatever.
Look at the commercials, man.
It's so in your face. Duke is just in your face all the time, and so where before we got to hate Greg Paulus, we got to hate Christian Laettner, we got to hate
Woj.
Who was the guy who Grayson Allen? Sorry, the Tripper. We got to pick a player and we got to hate them. Now we can just hate them because of how much they're trying to force Duke down everybody's throats.
Well, I think it's really tough to be a Duke fan. I'm a Carolina fan, right? And I'm sitting here on Tobacco Road, and I just hate it when I see Duke with all these 5 stars, right? 36 5 stars since 2015. Is that correct, Will?
It's insane. Yeah, it's correct.
36 5 stars, right? And
that
I'm like, I wish
the names on that list, Haas, are just silly too.
Do you want to read a couple of them?
I don't even have the list in front of me. I mean, Darryl, help me out here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, give me a second. I'll pull the list up, but do your thing, Hassan.
But it's really hard to be a Duke fan. Like, I'm not a Duke fan. If you think about it, we're 2026, 2022. They lost a game in New Orleans, Coach K's final season, to Carolina in the Final Four, a game that's never happened. Then they had to endure losing at Cameron for Coach K's retirement party. I mean, being a Duke fan is painful because the level of recruits that they're bringing in are so good that the expectations are so high, right? A Carolina fan over the last Roy tenure is you're coaching up a team for 3 or 4 years, and then we make a run, right? So we made runs in 9, 17. What was the other one? It was 2005, Will?
We 05, 09. We should have won it in 11 had Kendall Marshall not gotten hurt.
Yeah.
17. I mean, we made it in 16 as well.
22.
22. Right? Yeah. I mean, we've even had the appearances have been there as well, not just the championship wins, but the championship.
So I'm gonna name just a few of them. This isn't every single one of them, but you're talking Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson,
ridiculous,
Cooper Flagg,
ridiculous,
Paolo Banchero,
ridiculous,
RJ Barrett,
ridiculous,
Con Knipple,
ridiculous,
Cam Reddish,
ridiculous,
Marvin Bagley,
ridiculous.
The list goes on, and you look at the NBA, and it's full of Duke players. But guess what? It's also full of, as far as those Duke players are concerned, 0 national championships.
0 national championships. That's why I'm saying it's extremely tough to be a Duke fan. I mean, because they have endured hard losses. Like 22 was probably the hardest loss because I was in New Orleans. I was sitting on the 4th row, and Duke fans were booked through Monday because they just knew they were going to win the championship. And they knew they were going to beat Carolina. They said Carolina cannot beat us twice. Okay.
How many times, Haas, just you alone, how many times have you heard Duke fans anoint themselves the greatest thing since sliced bread and guarantee a win? They cannot do this. They cannot do that. And how many times have you, tell the listeners, how many times you've told your Duke friends, be careful, be careful.
No, I have to tell these guys, this is the blue blood rivalry. Anything can happen. I don't care what your record is. I've been following this rivalry for 35 years, connected to it. And I'm like, you cannot have a party on a Duke Carolina day because this is a team that can come to Cameron and win. You cannot. And I'll tell you, in New Orleans, 2022, I was one of the Carolina fans. A Kansas fan came up to me and said, do you care about this final? I said, oh, we'd love to win it. I said, but we already won it, right? Because that game in the semifinals to us was more important than the final. And that's messed up. That was more important because it gave Carolina something that Duke does not have. And
bragging rights.
In 2022, it's funny. Coach K, he goes out the way he goes out. We obviously know about the Caleb Love Dagger, and he tells John Shire, I'm sure he told him, hey, listen, man, it can't get any worse than this. And year after year, John Shire looks at Coach K sitting front row in Cameron Indoor Stadium and says, hey, Coach K, hold my beer. And he proves us that he can find a way to make it worse and worse and worse every year that he's been a part of this program. And while I don't think it's his fault 100% that ball was turned over at the end of that game, I do think it is astonishing to watch this Duke team fall short every season. every season in the most difficult of ways. I couldn't draw this up any better than John Shire draws up his inbound plays.
Darryl, help me out here, man, because we for the last couple of years have been talking about the way these Duke teams have been built, and it feels as if they largely, I mean, last year was a little bit less than this year, but they largely center around one guy in Boozer this year, and then you're expecting guys like Isaiah Evans to consistently be something that he's shown us he isn't, right? And yeah, he's dropped 30 and he's had these 25-point games down the stretch as of late, but it seemed like last night he just reverted back to what he was. And you didn't even have, we talked about Caleb Foster being the other guy for how long, and he wasn't even on the bench at the end of the, or he wasn't even on the floor at the end of the game. So like at some point we've got to stop talking about, it's got to be, the conversation's got to be on Shire and the way he's building these teams just around one guy. If everybody knows the one guy's getting the ball and he's going to hurt you, he's that good too. But I mean, come on.
We say all that, and despite all that, he still finds a way to have 19-point lead, 14-point lead, 9-point lead the last 3 seasons. He just can't coach them to the finish. And I don't know that it's necessarily the route they take to gain that 19-point lead, to gain those what we would consider insurmountable leads. I think it's the way that he finds a way to lose the game down the stretch every season with the lack of coaching. And he finds a different way to do it every year. And I applaud John Shire for showing me a different way to lose every year.
All right, guys. Last question. Misery loves company, Will. You're miserable, aren't you?
I'm better now.
Okay,
Misery loves company,
because you have company, Will, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Last question to end the podcast. Which pill was harder to swallow? Getting bounced in the first round or being a second and a half away from the Final Four, losing on a prayer? Does Duke's heartbreak make UNC's loss easier for you guys? Who had the harder pill?
Yes, it does. Absolutely, 100%. Any Carolina fan that says otherwise would be lying to you and themselves. They have a harder pill to swallow. Once Caleb went down, there were little to no expectations for us. And I would have liked to have seen a game, but you look at a lot of UNC fans' brackets, and we've all got to be realists here. And I didn't have them getting out of the first weekend. So I mean, I think Duke has the harder pill to swallow. The expectations being so high.
Darryl.
Yeah, I'd love to give you a bullshit answer and tell you that Carolina had the harder pill to swallow, Hassan. But I think being a second away from 0.4 seconds away from the Final Four after a year where you were even closer to a national championship game, it's the hardest pill to swallow. I don't know that Shire or Duke in general will be able to get food down for the next several days.
All right, guys, that's the final word of the season. We will never forget. The final shot we'll probably be talking about for years to come. Darryl, I think that shot will be in your nightmares forever. From the Brand Jordan takeover in Chapel Hill to a 50-foot prayer that silenced Durham, this week was an up and down, chaotic week in the history of the 919. Darryl, Will, as always, I just want to thank you guys for another amazing season. And I think, we'll have a couple of more shows going on this with the NBA draft, NIL players, the new blueprint for next season. So we'll keep going as we go. But I want to thank you for an amazing season. You guys were amazing. If you've been riding with us all season, hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a review, and support us, and so that we can keep building the Blue Blood Rivalry podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Blue Blood Rivalry for all the offseason coaching news, transfer portal updates. For Darryl and Will, I'm Hassan Pinto. The Nets aren't coming down in North Carolina this year, but the rivalry never sleeps. One rivalry, 2 shades of blues, always a winner. We'll see you in the offseason. And guys, as we always say, what do we say?
We out.
We out.
Blue Blood TV Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast.